Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. The sun hung low over the city, casting a golden hue across the bustling streets as Maya wiped her brow, the warmth of the day mingling with the heat of the cafe kitchen. Her heart raced not just from the summer heat, but from the rhythm of her life, a symphony of clattering dishes, sizzling pans, and the chatter of customers. As a waitress at Cafe Bella, Maya had become accustomed to the chaos, navigating the ebb and flow of patrons with practiced ease. Yet today felt different. Today, she sensed a shift in the air, a tension that prickled at the back of her neck. Maya had always been a fighter. Growing up in a neighborhood where dreams often felt like distant stars, she learned early on that hard work was her only ticket to a better life. With her mother working 2 jobs to keep food on the table, Maya took it upon herself to excel in her studies, determined to secure a scholarship that would take her far from the struggles of her youth. But as she poured coffee and served pastries, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to take an unexpected turn. The cafe was packed today, a mix of regulars and newcomers, their laughter and conversations weaving into a tapestry of sound. Maya maneuvered between tables, her black apron cinched tightly around her waist. She greeted each customer with a warm smile, her dark eyes sparkling with genuine kindness. Yet beneath her cheerful demeanor lay a fierce independence, a resolve that had been forged through years of hardship. She had no time for distractions or romantic entanglements. Her focus was solely on her future. But then, he walked in. Victor was unlike anyone she had ever seen. Tall and imposing, his presence commanded attention the moment he stepped through the door. Clad in a tailored black suit that hugged his broad shoulders, he exuded an air of danger mixed with undeniable allure. His dark hair was slicked back, and his piercing blue eyes scanned the room with a cool detachment that sent shivers down her spine. Maya felt an inexplicable pull toward him, a magnetic force that both intrigued and terrified her. As he approached the counter, Maya's breath caught in her throat. She forced herself to maintain her composure, reminding herself that she was just a waitress, a common girl in a world that felt far removed from the one he inhabited. She took a deep breath, steadying her voice as she greeted him. "What can I get for you today?" she asked, her tone professional despite the fluttering in her stomach. Victor's lips curled into a slight smirk as he leaned against the counter, his gaze locked onto hers. "I'll have an espresso," he replied, his voice low and smooth, laced with a foreign accent that sent a thrill through her, and perhaps a recommendation for something sweet. Maya hesitated, caught off guard by the intensity of his gaze. "The chocolate croissant is popular," she suggested, her heart racing as she realized how close he was. The scent of his cologne, a rich, smoky blend, filled her senses, and for a moment the cafe faded away, leaving just the 2 of them in a bubble of unspoken tension. "Perfect," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'll take one of those as well." As she prepared his order, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. She glanced at him over her shoulder, stealing a quick look at his chiseled features. He seemed to radiate an aura of power, a sense of authority that was both intimidating and alluring. Yet there was something else, a vulnerability hidden beneath his stoic exterior that intrigued her. "Are you new in town?" she asked, trying to keep the conversation flowing, her curiosity getting the better of her. Victor chuckled softly, a sound that sent warmth through her. "You could say that. Just passing through," he replied, his tone casual, but there was a flicker of something deeper in his eyes. "And you? Do you always serve coffee with such grace?" Maya felt her cheeks flush at the compliment. "I try my best," she said, attempting to sound nonchalant. Just another day at the cafe. Another day, he echoed, his gaze piercing. But I sense there's more to you than meets the eye, Maya. Her heart raced at the mention of her name. The way he pronounced it sent a jolt through her. You know my name? She asked, surprised. Of course, he replied, his expression unreadable. You've made quite an impression. Just as she was about to respond, the cafe door swung open and a group of rowdy customers burst in, shattering the moment. Maya turned to serve them, her heart still racing from the unexpected exchange. As she moved through the crowded cafe, she couldn't shake Victor's intense gaze from her mind. Who was he really? What did he want? The rest of her shift passed in a blur, her thoughts consumed by the enigmatic man who had walked into her life. She caught glimpses of him throughout the day, seated at a corner table, his attention focused on a small group of men who seemed to hang on his every word. The way they looked at him, reverence mixed with fear, sent a shiver down her spine. There was an air of danger surrounding him, and yet she felt inexplicably drawn to it. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the cafe, Maya found herself glancing toward Victor's table more often than she intended. He remained composed, his expression unreadable as he engaged in quiet conversation with his companions. But every time their eyes met, an electric current pulsed between them, igniting a fire within her that she couldn't ignore. At the end of her shift, as the last customers filtered out, Maya felt a mix of relief and disappointment. She had survived another day, but she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was on the brink of something monumental. She took a moment to gather her things, her heart racing as she glanced back at Victor one last time. To her surprise, he was standing, his tall frame silhouetted against the fading light. Maya, he called, his voice cutting through the hum of the cafe. She turned, her breath hitching as he approached her. I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to speak with you. The air thickened with tension as she met his gaze, a mixture of excitement and trepidation bubbling within her. Sure, she replied, trying to sound casual despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. He gestured toward the door, and they stepped outside into the cool evening air. The city buzzed around them, but in that moment, it felt as though they were the only two people in the world. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, and Maya couldn't help but feel that something significant was about to unfold. Thank you for the coffee, Victor said, his voice low and sincere. And for the croissant, it was delicious. Maya chuckled softly, the tension easing slightly. I'm glad you liked it. It's one of our best sellers. But it's not the only thing that stood out today, he continued, his gaze steady. You spoke a dialect I haven't heard in years. Her heart raced at his words. I don't know what you mean. He stepped closer, the intensity of his gaze locking her in place. You spoke my mother's dialect. It was perfect, almost like you had lived in Russia. Maya felt a flush of warmth spread across her cheeks. I studied languages in school. I have a knack for picking them up. Impressive, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Most people wouldn't know the difference. The connection between them deepened, a thread of understanding woven through their conversation. She felt as if they were standing on the precipice of something extraordinary, yet the reality of their worlds loomed large. So, what brings you to this part of the city? She asked, trying to steer the conversation away from her. Business, he replied, his tone shifting slightly. But I find myself more intrigued by the people here than the deals I'm making. Maya raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. And what is it about me that intrigues you? Victor's expression softened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his stoic facade. You're different, Maya. You carry yourself with strength, and there's a light in your eyes that draws me in. She felt her heart flutter at his words, the sincerity in his voice wrapping around her like a warm embrace. I'm just a waitress, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Just a waitress? He echoed, stepping even closer. You're much more than that. You have a fire within you that I can't ignore. Maya's breath caught in her throat as their eyes locked, the world around them fading into a blur. She felt a pull toward him, a connection that was both exhilarating and terrifying. But in the back of her mind, the reality of his world loomed, a world filled with danger, power, and secrets she couldn't begin to comprehend. As the tension between them thickened, a sudden noise interrupted their moment. A loud crash echoed from the alley behind the cafe, jolting them both back to reality. Maya's heart raced as she turned to look, her instincts on high alert. "What was that?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Victor's expression hardened, the protective instinct she had sensed earlier surfacing once more. "Stay close," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. Maya nodded, her pulse quickening, as they moved toward the sound. The thrill of the unknown mixed with the fear of what lay ahead, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a dangerous journey. As they stepped into the shadows of the alley, she realized that she was stepping into a world far removed from her ordinary life, a world where danger lurked around every corner, and the stakes were higher than she could have ever imagined. The air was thick with tension as they approached the source of the noise, and Maya's heart raced with both excitement and fear. What had she gotten herself into, and why did she feel so drawn to him, even as the shadows of his world closed in around them? Little did she know, the events of that night would change her life forever, intertwining her fate with Victor's in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. As they ventured deeper into the darkness, the line between danger and desire began to blur, leaving Maya on the precipice of a thrilling yet perilous romance. The stakes were rising, and with each step, she felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on her, urging her to confront the truths that lay ahead. What would she discover about Victor, and more importantly, about herself? The answers awaited, just beyond the shadows. Before you step, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Maya stood at the edge of the alley, her heart pounding in her chest as she and Victor approached the source of the crash. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist around them, the dim light from the street lamp barely illuminating the path ahead. The thrill of danger mixed with an undeniable attraction to the man beside her, causing her pulse to race. She could feel the tension radiating off Victor, his body coiled like a spring, ready to react to any threat that might emerge from the darkness. "What do you think it was?" she asked, her voice a mere whisper, barely breaking the heavy silence that enveloped them. Victor's gaze was sharp, scanning the alley with the intensity of a predator. "Stay close to me," he instructed, his voice low and commanding. There was an underlying urgency in his tone that sent a shiver down her spine. She nodded, instinctively stepping closer to him, seeking comfort in his presence even as the uncertainty of the situation loomed over them. As they ventured deeper into the alley, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. Was it just a stray cat, a piece of debris falling from a nearby building, or was it something more sinister? The answers awaited, just beyond the shadows. The city, with its bustling streets and vibrant energy, felt like a world away from the darkened alley where they now found themselves. She could hear the distant sounds of traffic and laughter, but here it was as if they had entered a different realm, one filled with shadows and secrets. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, stumbling backward as if trying to escape something unseen. Maya gasped, instinctively reaching for Victor's arm. He immediately stepped in front of her, his posture shifting to one of protection. The figure, a disheveled man with wild eyes, looked between them, fear etched on his face. "Help! They're coming for me!" he shouted, his voice a frantic plea that echoed off the brick walls. Maya's heart raced at the desperation in his tone, and she could see the panic in his eyes. Victor's expression hardened, his jaw tightening as he assessed the situation. "Who's coming?" he demanded, his voice low and steady, yet laced with an edge that sent a clear message he was not to be trifled with. The man shook his head, his breath coming in quick gasps. "I don't know. They just started chasing me. I didn't do anything." His hands were trembling, and Maya could see the fear radiating off him in waves. Victor took a step closer, his presence imposing. "You need to tell me everything, now," he commanded, his tone brokering no argument. Maya watched as the man's eyes darted between them, clearly terrified of Victor, but equally frightened of the unknown threat lurking in the shadows. "I saw something I shouldn't have," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something about a deal, drugs, money. I didn't mean to, I swear. I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time." A chill ran down Maya's spine. The words echoed in her mind, each syllable reinforcing the reality of the world Victor inhabited, a world filled with danger and illicit dealings. She glanced at Victor, searching for any sign of his reaction, but his face remained impassive, a mask of control that concealed the storm brewing beneath the surface. "We can't stay here," Victor said, his voice firm. "If they're after you, they'll come looking. You need to get to safety." The man nodded vigorously, his eyes wide with fear. "Please, I just want to go home. I didn't mean to get involved in any of this." Maya felt a surge of empathy for the man, but she also understood the gravity of the situation. She was standing on the precipice of a world she had only glimpsed, and the implications of Victor's life were becoming painfully clear. "Come with us," Victor said, his voice steady as he directed the man toward the mouth of the alley. "We'll figure this out." As they stepped back into the light, Maya's heart raced. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that danger lurked just beyond the reach of the streetlights. Victor's presence beside her was both a comfort and a source of anxiety. She felt safe with him, yet acutely aware of the peril that surrounded them. Once they reached the street, Victor turned to the man. "Where are you headed?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Just a few blocks away. I can make it," the man replied, glancing nervously down the street. "Not alone," Victor insisted. "We'll take you." Maya felt a mix of apprehension and admiration for Victor. He was a man of power, yet he was willing to help someone in need, even if it meant putting himself at risk. As they walked together, the tension in the air was palpable. Maya's thoughts spiraled, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. "Why are you helping him?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper as they walked side by side. Victor glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Because it's the right thing to do," he replied, his tone firm, "and because I understand what it's like to be hunted." Maya's heart sank at his words. She could sense the weight of his past, the shadows that lingered behind his icy demeanor. "You've been in his position before?" she asked, curiosity getting the better of her. He didn't respond immediately, his gaze fixed ahead as if lost in thought. "In a way," he finally said, his voice low, "but it's not about me. It's about him. He deserves a chance to escape." As they approached the man's destination, a small apartment building nestled between two larger structures, Maya felt a knot of tension in her stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that eyes were upon them. "Here," the man said, pointing to the entrance. "This is it." Victor nodded, his posture shifting as he scanned the area. "Go inside and lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me," he instructed firmly. The man nodded, his face a mask of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice trembling. "I don't know what I would have done without you." As the man hurried inside, Maya turned to Victor, her heart racing. "What now?" she asked, the uncertainty gnawing at her. Victor's expression hardened once more as he turned his gaze toward the street. "Now we wait," he said, his voice low and tense. "If they're coming for him, they'll show up soon enough." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The weight of the moment settled heavily upon her, and she realized that she was standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between her ordinary life and the dangerous allure of Victor's world. "What if they come after us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "They won't," Victor replied, his tone confident. "Not if we're careful." As they stood in the shadows, Maya's heart raced. The air was thick with tension, and she could feel the electricity between them crackling in the air. She glanced up at Victor, his features illuminated by the streetlight, and felt a surge of attraction mixed with fear. "What do you really do, Victor?" she asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. He turned to her, his gaze piercing. "I'm a businessman," he said, his tone vague. "But it's more complicated than that." Maya nodded, sensing that he was holding back. She wanted to know more, to peel back the layers of his enigmatic persona. But she also knew that some truths were best left unspoken, especially in a world as dangerous as his. As they continued to wait, an uneasy silence settled between them. Maya's thoughts raced, filled with questions that she couldn't voice. What was Victor really involved in? How deep did the danger run? And why was she feeling so drawn to him despite the risks? Just then, a sound broke the silence, a distant roar of engines, the unmistakable hum of vehicles approaching. Maya's heart raced as she turned to Victor, her eyes wide with fear. "What is that?" she asked, panic rising in her chest. Victor's expression shifted, his body tensing as he focused on the sound. "Stay close," he instructed, his voice low and urgent. Maya nodded, fear coursing through her veins as she moved closer to him. She could feel the heat radiating off his body, the strength and power that emanated from him. In that moment, she realized just how much she was drawn to him, even as the danger loomed closer. As the vehicles drew nearer, Victor's gaze sharpened, and Maya could sense the shift in his demeanor. He was no longer the enigmatic man she had met in the cafe. He was a force to be reckoned with, a protector ready to defend what was his. The vehicles came into view, sleek black cars gliding through the streets like predators on the hunt. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she watched them approach, her heart racing with a mix of fear and adrenaline. "Get ready," Victor said, his voice steady as he prepared for whatever was to come. Maya felt a surge of determination. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a part of this world now, standing beside Victor in the face of danger. As the cars came to a stop, she knew that whatever happened next would change everything. In that moment, she realized that she was willing to face the unknown, to embrace the thrill of the chase, as long as Victor was by her side. The stakes were high, but so was the connection between them, a bond forged in the fires of danger and desire. As the doors of the vehicles swung open, Maya took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, knowing that this was just the beginning of a journey that would intertwine their fates forever. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As the black cars came to a halt, Maya felt an electric tension in the air, a palpable sense of danger that made her heart race. The door swung open, and out stepped a group of men dressed in sharp suits, their movements precise and calculated. Each one exuded an aura of authority, a silent testament to the power they wielded. Maya instinctively pressed closer to Victor, seeking the comfort of his presence as her mind raced with questions. Who were these men? What did they want? Victor's body was rigid beside her, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. The cold, calculating look on his face was a stark contrast to the warmth he had shown her before. It was a reminder that beneath his charming exterior lay a man who thrived in a world where danger was an everyday occurrence. Maya could feel the tension radiating off him, and it both frightened and fascinated her. "Stay behind me," he instructed, his voice low and commanding. Maya nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She was acutely aware of the stakes now, the reality of the world she had inadvertently stepped into. The men approached with an air of confidence, their eyes scanning the surroundings before settling on Victor. One of them, a tall man with slicked back hair and a scar running across his cheek, stepped forward. "Victor," he said, his voice smooth yet laced with an edge, "we need to talk." Victor's expression hardened. "Not here," he replied, glancing around as if assessing the risk of being exposed in such a public space. Maya's pulse quickened as she realized how vulnerable they were, standing in the open while shadows loomed around them. The scarred man smirked, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "You think you can control the situation? You've made some enemies, my friend. You can't just hide behind your walls forever." Maya felt Victor's muscles tense beside her, and she instinctively took a step closer to him, feeling the need to support him, though she knew little of the world he inhabited. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and she could sense the danger enveloping them like a shroud. "Let's move," Victor said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He turned to Maya, his gaze softening for just a moment. "Trust me." Maya nodded, her heart racing as they began to walk away from the confrontation. She could feel the eyes of the men boring into her back, a reminder that she was now part of this dangerous game. As they walked, Victor's hand found hers, his grip firm and reassuring. "Where are we going?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as they moved swiftly through the streets. "To a safe place," Victor replied, his eyes scanning the surroundings constantly. "I need to explain some things to you." Maya's heart raced at the thought of what he might reveal. She had sensed the weight of his secrets, the burdens he carried, but she had no idea how deep they ran. They reached a sleek black SUV parked discreetly a few blocks away. Victor opened the door for her, and she slid into the plush leather seat, feeling a mix of anxiety and anticipation. As he got in beside her and closed the door, the world outside seemed to fade away, leaving them in a bubble of tension and unspoken words. Victor started the engine, the purr of the vehicle a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in her mind. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," he said, his voice low and serious. "I didn't want you to get involved in this." Maya turned to him, her eyes searching his face for answers. "Involved in what, Victor? What is it that you do?" He hesitated, his jaw tightening as he considered his words. "I'm involved in business that isn't always legal. I am a part of the Russian BRATVA." The revelation hit her like a punch to the gut. The mafia. She had heard stories, seen movies, but this was real. "You're a mafia boss?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, the gravity of his words sinking in. Victor nodded, his expression unreadable. "Yes, but it's more complicated than that. I didn't choose this life. It chose me. I'm trying to protect what little I have left." Maya's mind raced, trying to process the information. "And what do you have left?" she asked, her voice trembling. He looked at her, his gaze intense. "You." The simplicity of his words struck her, and for a moment the chaos outside faded away. "But I'm just a waitress," she replied, feeling the weight of his statement. "I don't belong in your world." "Maybe not," he said, his voice low and steady. "But you're here now, and I can't just let you walk away." Maya swallowed hard, her heart racing as she tried to comprehend the implications. "What do you mean? What happens now?" Victor's eyes darkened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his stoic facade. "There are people who would use you against me. I can't let that happen." "Then what are we going to do?" Maya asked, her mind racing with possibilities. He took a deep breath, his expression hardening. We need to lay low for a while. I'll keep you safe, but you need to trust me. I want to trust you, she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. But this is all so overwhelming. Victor reached out, his fingers brushing against hers, sending a jolt of electricity through her. I know, but I promise I'll do everything in my power to protect you. Maya felt a mix of fear and excitement at his words. The danger was real, but so was the connection between them. She had never felt this way before, and it terrified her. As they drove through the city, the lights blurred past, illuminating the tension in the air. Maya's thoughts swirled as she tried to make sense of her feelings. She was drawn to Victor, not just for his looks or power, but for the man beneath the surface, someone who had been shaped by pain and loss. "Why did you keep me around?" she asked, her voice breaking the silence. "You could have chosen anyone." Victor glanced at her, his expression a mixture of surprise and sincerity. "Because you're different. You see me, not just the facade I put up. I've been alone for so long, and you make me feel something I thought I lost." Maya's heart raced at his admission. She could see the vulnerability in his eyes, a glimpse of the man behind the mafia boss. "But this world is dangerous," she said softly. "I don't want to be a liability." "You're not a liability," he said firmly. "You're my strength. I need you to understand that." The sincerity in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. She could feel the weight of his words, the promise of protection mingling with the thrill of their connection. As they pulled into a secluded parking garage, Victor parked the SUV and turned to face her. "We're going to wait here for a bit, just to be safe. I'll explain everything I can." Maya nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She was ready to hear the truth, ready to confront the reality of the man sitting beside her. Victor took a deep breath, his gaze steady as he began to speak. "The BRATVA is a powerful organization, but it's also filled with danger. There are factions within it that are constantly vying for power, and I'm at the center of it all. I've made enemies, and they won't hesitate to use people close to me against me." Maya listened intently, her heart racing as she absorbed his words. "So they want to hurt you?" "Not just me," he replied, his voice low. "Anyone I care about. That's why I need to keep you close. You're safer with me than on your own." Maya felt a chill run down her spine at the thought of being used as leverage against him. "What if they come after me?" "They won't," he said, his voice firm. "I won't let them." The intensity in his gaze sent a rush of warmth through her, and she felt a flicker of hope amidst the fear. "But what if I want to leave? What if I can't handle this?" Victor's expression softened, and he reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "You can leave whenever you want, but I hope you'll choose to stay. I need you, Maya, more than you know." The sincerity in his words resonated deep within her, and she felt a surge of determination. She didn't want to be just a pawn in his game. She wanted to be a partner, someone who could stand by his side. "I'll stay," she said, her voice steady. "But I need to know that you'll be honest with me. No more secrets." Victor nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I promise. I'll tell you everything." As they sat in the quiet of the parking garage, Maya felt a sense of calm wash over her. The world outside was chaotic and dangerous, but in this moment, with Victor beside her, she felt a connection that transcended the fear. "Tell me about your life," she said softly, wanting to know more about the man who had captivated her. Victor took a deep breath, his gaze distant as he began to share his story. "I grew up in Russia, in a world where power meant everything. My father was a powerful man in the BRATVA, and I was groomed from a young age to follow in his footsteps. But I never wanted this life. I wanted to be free. Maya listened intently, captivated by his words. What happened? My father was betrayed, he continued, his voice heavy with emotion. He was killed, and I was left to pick up the pieces. I had to prove myself, to show that I was worthy of the legacy he left behind. But it came at a cost. What kind of cost? Maya asked, her heart aching for him. Loss, he said simply. I lost friends, family, people I cared about. The deeper I got into this world, the more isolated I became. I built walls to protect myself, but they only made me more alone. Maya reached out, placing her hand on his cheek, urging him to meet her gaze. You're not alone anymore, she said softly. I'm here. Victor's eyes softened, and for a moment she saw the vulnerability he had kept hidden. You have no idea what that means to me, he said, his voice thick with emotion. As they sat in the dim light of the parking garage, Maya felt a sense of purpose rising within her. She was no longer just a waitress. She was part of something bigger, a connection that transcended the chaos around them. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together, she said, her voice steady. Victor nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. Together. In that moment, Maya realized that she was ready to embrace the unknown, to dive headfirst into the world of danger and desire that awaited them. She was no longer just a bystander. She was an active participant in this story, and she was determined to make her mark alongside Victor, the man who had captivated her heart and soul. As they sat in the parking garage, the world outside faded away, leaving only the two of them, bound by an unbreakable connection forged in the fires of danger and desire. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. With a newfound sense of determination, Maya took a deep breath, ready to navigate the complexities of their intertwined lives. The road ahead was uncertain, but with Victor by her side, she felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. Let's go, Victor said, his voice steady as he turned the key in the ignition. Maya nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. Together, they would face the unknown, ready to confront whatever challenges awaited them in the world of the Russian BRATVA.